Well, today marks the 25th anniversary of a massive police operation in Philadelphia that culminated in the helicopter bombing of the headquarters of a radical group known as MOVE. The fire from the attack killed 6 adults and 5 children and destroyed 65 homes in an entire neighborhood. Despite the 2 grand jury investigations and a commission finding that top officials were grossly negligent, no one from city government was criminally charged. MOVE was a Philadelphia-based radical movement that was dedicated to black liberation and a back-to-nature lifestyle. It was founded by John Africa, and all its members took on the surname Africa. We'll be joined in a moment from Philadelphia by Ramona Africa. At the time of the bombing, she was the sole adult survivor in the house. She escaped with major burns by crawling through a basement window with a 13-year-old boy, then known as Birdie Africa. Ramona went on to serve 7 years in prison on a riot charge. But first, here's a clip from Mumia Abu-Jamal's latest commentary from death row.
May 13th at 25. May 13th, 1985 is more than a day of infamy, when a city waged war on its own alleged citizens, but also when the city committed massacre and did so with perfect impunity. When babies were shot and burned alive with their mothers and fathers, and the killers rewarded with honors and pensions, while politicians talked and the media mediated mass murder. On that day, the city, armed and assisted by the U.S. government, dropped a bomb on a house and called it law. The fire department watched buildings ignite like matches in the desert and cut off water. The courts of the land turned a blind eye, daubed mud in their sockets, and prosecuted Ramona Africa for having the nerve to survive an urban holocaust, jailing her for the crime of not burning to death. 11 men, women, and children died, and not one killer was even charged with a misdemeanor. But on that day, more than MOVE members died. The city died too. Its politicians died. Its media died. Its courts died. And its churches and houses of worship died. For they ceased to function, and they served power and money. In a very real sense, the city massacred itself. For when faith in such institutions died, they became empty, hollow, and dead, but for the shell. May 13th, 1985 is a day that shall live in infamy, but for far more reasons than the obvious. It was the death knell of a system committing suicide. It proved that a man called John Africa spoke powerful truths when he spoke about the nature of the system as corrupt, as flawed, as poisoned. Every day past that date has only proved it even more. From death row, this is Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Mumia Abu-Jamal, also a former Philadelphia reporter. That commentary courtesy of the Prison Radio Project. Ramona Africa joins us now from Philadelphia on this 25th anniversary of the MOVE bombing. Ramona, welcome to Democracy Now! Go back 25 years ago. You were the sole adult survivor of the police bombing, May 13th, 1985. Describe what happened as the bomb was falling on your house.
Okay, the first thing I want people to understand is that that bombing did not happen because of some complaints from neighbors. This government have never cared about black folks complaining about their neighbors or any other people complaining about their neighbors. They bombed us because of our unrelenting fight for our family members, known as the Move 9, who have been in prison unjustly, going on 32 years now, as a result of the August 8th, 1978 police attack on Move. I just wanted to make that clear. In terms of the bombing, after being attacked the way we were, first with 4 deluge hoses by the fire department, and then tons of tear gas, and then being shot at, the police admit to shooting over 10,000 rounds of bullets at us in the first 90 minutes. There was a lull. You know, it was quiet for a little bit. And then, without any warning at all, 2 members of the Philadelphia Police Department's bomb squad got in a Pennsylvania State Police helicopter and flew over our home and dropped a satchel containing C4, a powerful military explosive that no municipal police department has. They had to get it from the federal government, from the FBI. And without any announcement or warning or anything, they dropped that bomb on the roof of our home. Now, at that point, we didn't know exactly what they had done. We heard the loud explosion. The house kind of shook, but it never entered my mind that they dropped a bomb on us. But the bomb did, in fact, ignite a fire. And not long after that, it got very, very hot in the house, and the smoke was getting thicker. At first, we thought it was tear gas. But as it got thicker, it became clear that this wasn't tear gas, that this was something else. And then we could hear the trees outside of our house crackling and realized that our home was on fire. And we immediately tried to get our children, our animals, our dogs and cats, and ourselves out of that blazing inferno. The adults were hollering out that we're coming out, we're bringing the children out. The children were hollering that they were coming out, that we were bringing them out. And we know that the police heard us, but the very instant that we were visible to them, trying to come out, they immediately opened fire. We were met with a barrage of police gunfire, and you could see it hitting all around us, all around the house, and it forced us back in to that blazing inferno several times. And finally, you're in a position where either you choke to death and burn alive, or you possibly are shot to death. So we continue to try to get out of that house. And I got out, I got Bertie out. You could hear the shots hitting all around us. A cop grabbed Bertie, took him into custody, grabbed me, threw me down on the ground, and handcuffed, me behind me, in the back of me. And I just knew that everybody else had gotten out. They were right behind me. And I didn't find out until police took me to the homicide unit of the police administration building that there were no other survivors.
Ramona Africa, the sole adult survivor. 6 adults, 5 children killed that day. Juan, you were a reporter for the Philadelphia Daily News. You were there on the corner when this happened.
Yeah, well, Ramona, as you recall, it was it was May 13th, but it was a Sunday that year, and it was Mother's Day. And I'll never forget because the confrontation started early in the day and went for most of the day. And I remember precisely when that helicopter dropped the C4 because I was about a block away with my fellow Philadelphia Daily News reporter and longtime friend Lynn Washington. And we saw the helicopter hovering overhead, and we said, "What's that helicopter doing?" But we didn't understand what it was up to at that point. We turn around when all of a sudden the explosion goes off. But the aspect that many people are not aware of, that as that fire raged, we remember the fire trucks, as you mentioned, that had been hosing down the building beforehand. Suddenly, the firefighters were just ordered to stand down, and they allowed the fire to rage, I would estimate, for it must have been about an hour. And, of course, eventually the flames not only destroyed your house, but then destroyed 65 other houses, all in the entire neighborhood. But the firemen just stood there under orders not to douse a fire because they were trying to basically force you out. The other aspect of the story, I think, and as you mentioned, was what happened in the rear as they attempted to shoot the MOVE members as they went out. Because the stories the next day in my newspaper then, in the Philadelphia Inquirer, were because basically it came from police sources that the MOVE members had tried to shoot their way out, when it was actually it was later clearly your story was backed up by the commission that basically the police ended up shooting you down as you attempted to come out.